Andrew, thank you. Well, today, a former OPPD employee was formally charged with 2 felonies after allegedly trying to bribe a woman who accused his father of sexual assault. 46-year-old Steve Arora is charged with tampering with and bribing a witness. Last fall, Aurora's father was arrested for allegedly inappropriately touching a woman at an apartment complex that he manages. Later, Arora allegedly offered the woman reduced rent if she dropped the charges. Arora turned himself in to Douglas County Corrections on Monday. Each of the 2 charges he faces carries a maximum of 2 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. We expect to learn more about the case when Arora returns to court for a preliminary hearing on June 23rd.